When the Crimson Isle was first released, it came with mistakes that would never be fixed to this day. Without a clear image of what the game might look like in its future, certain mechanics were added that could be quite broken in the later landscape. The big problem that Skyblock faces is that it's coded inside of Minecraft, and naturally, it's filled with bugs. However, the item we will be talking today wasn't necessarily bugged, but it was unique in its own way. It was an item whose sole purpose would be to use other overpowered items in combination, meaning that the only options the admins had would be leaving it completely useless or completely broken. Today, we will dive into the history of the tactical insertion, what uses it had, the impacts on the game as a whole, and why it will likely never be meta again. The first mention of the tactical insertion is on a post by Minikloon on March 3rd, 2022, posting a screenshot of the item lore. The insertion's ability stated that it would mark a location, then teleport the player back there, dealing damage based off of the damage that they dealt to other mobs. Along with this post, Minikloon asked if it was Garbagoo Garbage or Godlike OP. The general interactions with this post seemed to think that it was quite underwhelming, stating that it was just a Sinseeker Scythe V2. Little did they know just how broken the tactical insertion would become. Shortly after this Twitter post, the tag insertion rolled out on the Alpha network during Crimson Isle testing. However, no one was able to obtain it at this time. The tag insertion first came to the main network with the Crimson Isle update on April 20th, 2022, requiring Blaze Slayer level 5 and a plethora of resources to craft, the most expensive of which being 8 vertexes. The vertexes would end up being one of the most limiting factors to the tag insertion's success. You see, they were incredibly difficult to obtain, and require either hundreds of millions of coins in fuel or billions of coins on the bazaar. Along with this, the tag insertion on paper seemed like a pretty meh item, which, when surrounded by the hundreds of new cool and unique items added in the update, was pretty bland. Essentially, since everyone was spending their vertexes on the more flashy and cool items of the update, no one was going to craft the tactical insertion for a while after its release. This all changed in June 2022. June was an interesting time for Skyblock. It started with the new dupe that completely obliterated the economy of high-end items for months on end. Now, one of said items that were duped happened to be vertexes. The influx from the dupe led to many items using vertexes to become much more accessible, one of which was the tactical insertion. This led to the first recorded usage of the tactical insertion, taking place in a video made by Bucklez, in which he showcased the extreme damage potential that the tac insertion has, but couldn't find any actual uses for it. One of the big issues that the tac insertion would face for the next couple of months is that it just lacked a proper use. The extra damage would only come 3 seconds later, which by then most mobs would be dead. Put simply by one forum user, the tac was basically just an expensive Sinseeker, lacking any real use cases. The only mentions of the tactical insertion between July 2022 and November 2022 were a string of forum posts made by the user Starry Skies, in which he tried to find some niche uses for it, and discovered a couple of cool things with the insertion, such as it does damage to Blaze Slayer bosses, which will become essential to the identity of the insertion later on. Along with that, there were a couple of other forum posts calling it just a glorified Souls Rebound, which is all it essentially was. The glorified Souls Rebound take made it an item that most people just ignored, leaving it completely irrelevant for months. Despite its relevancy, during 2023 the tactical insertion had a huge influx of usage, becoming more traded in a single day than it has been throughout the rest of its lifetime up to that point. You might wonder, what might have caused this influx? Why was the tactical insertion randomly good? Well, it all started in November 2022, when a player by the name HG is Awesome uploaded a video called Fastest Tier 2 Blaze Kill, in which someone nearby killed his Tier 2 Blaze in only a couple of seconds using what looks to be a Hyperion. Little did he know at this time, but this kill would spark the beginning of a new era of the tactical insertion, an era unlike anything Skyblock has ever seen before. If you look at HG's YouTube channel, you might see a series of videos following November of 2022 that are all related to blazes and one-shotting them. The general outline of each video would be that someone used a Hyperion to kill a group of blazes, spawned a Slayer, and the Slayer would instantly die. Now this brings up a better question. How? Well, it's actually quite simple. As mentioned before, the tactical insertion's ability wouldn't get damage reduced from Blaze Slayers. which means, along with its capabilities as a Soldier Bound, makes for massive single hits damage. After months of refining and experimenting with the Blade's one-tap, HD had made the tactical insertion into a usable state. And after refining this method, what would he do with it? What could he do with the new Blaze slaying method? Well, he went after the clout. Essentially, HD and his friend Millard went around to every single YouTuber they could find and one-shot one of their bosses. One notable example of this is Refraction, which, after making a video on the one-tap, truly made the tactical insertion a mainstream item. Their YouTube tour even led to me meeting them, and quickly word of the new one-tap spread to the endgame community like a wildfire. Tactical insertions shot up in price, going from 130 million coins to 300 million coins, just from people trying to buy them to one-shot. I myself even bought one to one-tap, and also, at the same time, managed to get number 1 in all the Dungeon Hub races. But that's a story for another day. So many people were doing this one-shot that eventually, YouTuber Bucklez got his hands on the method and made a video on it. Bucklez made a video on how to do the one-tap, and the tactical insertion instantly skyrocketed in usage, over 10 timesing in auction sales per day. This one-tap did end up lasting quite a while, with many players, including myself, being able to use it up until Blaze level 9. However, 1 month after the Bucklez video, 5 months after HD's video, in April 2023, the Gauntlet of Contagion was nerfed, killing this one-tap and marking the end of the golden age of the tactical insertion. Instantly after the nerf, an all-time high 62 tactical insertions, 4 pages on the auction house were auctioned at a single time. However, the tac wouldn't stay in this useless state for very long, because not even a month prior, an even more game-breaking discovery was made. To understand exactly what happened, you must first go back to the release of the Crimson Isle update and look at the Crimson Armor set. On release, the Crimson Armor was broken to say the least, and I don't just mean overpowered. It was literally broken. Basically, Crimson Armor allowed the wearer to bypass iframes, meaning that every single click would translate into damage, leading to legitimately infinite DPS. This was patched quickly due to its game-breaking nature, and no one thought about it for months. However, in March 2023, it was found by a player named Crisero that this infinite attack speed came back whenever a mob was in a state of invulnerability, such as Immense Hits phase, Laser phase, and more importantly, the Soldier Bound. With this and high CPS, you were consistently able to do integer limit damage outside of dungeons with the Soldier Bound. However, this wasn't able to be used on Slayers due to their inability to be hit by the Soldier Bound. To bypass this, the attack insertion was needed again, which in combination led to new one-taps for both E-Man and Blaze Slayers. The attack would be crucial to doing Slayers at peak efficiency, making it more relevant than it has ever been. After multiple videos were made on abusing the attack, the insertion peaked in price, going from 100 million coins after the Gauntlet of Contagion patch to over 500 million coins from a one-tap with the Dreadlord Sword. This new phase of one-tapping led to the attack being the most relevant it has ever been, but eventually the admins had to step in to patch a bug with Soldier Bound and E-Man Slayer, which subsequently patched all of the relevant tac insertion based one-taps, marking the end of the tactical insertion's relevance in Slayers. Or at least it mostly killed the tac insertion. Some efforts were made to help keep the tac one-shots relevant, but the insertion just failed to reach the relevance it had prior. The issue the tac faced was that the new strats with it were simply worse than before. For months after the Soldier Bound patch, the insertion was just in a state of limbo, having some usage, but not mainstream enough for it to receive a patch or a nerf. However, on June 21st, 2023, the tac insertion would receive its first direct change from admins ever. It would receive one of the most game-changing updates it could ever get. It would be added to the museum. After 14 months of being out, the only balance change it received directly would be that it's added to the museum. And, of course, as with all items, actually having a use that gives Skyblock XP made the tac insertion jump in price, going from 250 million coins to 400 million coins at a peak. And that's where the insertion stood. with its only uses being a niche one-tap that was slightly faster than doing Blaze legit, and being donated to the museum for Skyblock XP. However, one of these uses would soon disappear. On September 12, 2023, the Berserker update wrote the Hypixel Skyblock, buffing the Berserker class to become more viable in the melee form. However, whilst everyone was looking at the burst changes, 2 lines in the patch notes stood to kill the tactical insertion. It read, "Significantly reduce the damage conversion rate of the tactical insertion, and souls are bound, nerfing the tac insertion's damage by 75%. At the same time, the admins rolled out a shadow patch, capping damage from the tac mob to be the mob health, meaning that any one-shot with tac in the future would be almost completely impossible. Since this patch, the tac insertion hasn't found any notable uses for slayers or one-shotting. It has, however, found its place in dungeons, with its ability to be able to avoid the death barrier, allowing for getting into the dungeon early as well as 0-second blood rushing. It also has found some niche uses in secret routes, giving slightly faster clears. Even with it being in this state, the tac insertion's legacy cannot be understated. With almost 1 million collective views on YouTube related to the tac insertion, it can be said that it defined the meta for slayers throughout its life, leading to patch after patch the admins had to make to keep the tac under check. It had states of being completely busted to completely useless, and even a point where it was decently balanced, and while it might never be used for one-tapping again, the tac insertion has found its place. Exactly as players thought all those months ago, the tac stands today as just an expensive replacement for the Synthseeker scythe. If you stayed this far, chances are you enjoyed the video, and if you did, why don't you help me out and subscribe? While you're down there, maybe like the video and comment as well. It'd mean the world to me. Anyways, thanks for watching, and that's all from me.